Welcome to Build for Bharat, where you and I learn from the builders and makers for Bharat. I'm your host, Sanjay Jain. Today, I have with me Jay Nanavati, who's the Chief Technology Officer at Navana.ai. Jay, welcome to Build for Bharat.
Hi, Sanjay. Thanks so much for having me.
Jay, you have built Navana.ai as an e-commerce enabler that facilitates Alexa-like shopping experiences on WhatsApp for brands. You do this in the 10 most widely spoken Indian languages. Tell our audience a little more about what it takes to build an engaging user experience on top of a messaging platform.
Sure. So I'd like to start off with answering a little bit about why WhatsApp and what the value that it brings is. From the inception of our journey, we've had this mission of expanding access to digital services for the wider Indian demographic. This includes users who are technically illiterate or even conventionally illiterate and struggle to use apps and services in their current avatar. We initially viewed integrating our technologies on top of Android apps as the best way forward, but found that users are typically wary of downloading and using apps that operate in this high-risk segment. And these are apps that could lead to a loss of money as a result of making a mistake in them. However, every single respondent in our user research has downloaded, kept, and actively used WhatsApp. And this spans across demographics. So it's become obvious that meeting users where they are most comfortable has a lot of benefits for both the user and the business. This is not without its own challenges, though. WhatsApp is a closed system. This makes it impossible to take the shortest path of UI intervention when we encounter a problem designing for a specific use case. It's not as simple as adding a help button or an audio assistant to WhatsApp itself. So if a user is confused, what we do is we spend a lot of time on effective conversation and content design. Audio notes in local language, emojis, GIFs all serve as a great way to provide a user with more context and help avoid pitfalls while engaging with the bot. The second, which is more a function of conversations themselves, is the nature of the linearity of them, the sequential nature of conversations. With messaging apps like WhatsApp, we are limited to designing single choice responses and bots. So if you think about the first avatar of WhatsApp bots, you'll imagine button click based flows where the user is prompted to provide one input every step of the way. And this works great for users who can read and for flows that are short. And a great example of this is requesting for your bank balance. The problem with this is that complex flows can quickly become unwieldy and fatiguing for an end user. So if you think of a product search flow, users need to provide their preferences around price, color, category, features. And so you could get something like this. It would be, I would like a blue Fab India kurta, Neta cut, under 2,000 rupees for men in medium size. And so the name of the game becomes capturing as much information as possible from one input to reduce the time taken for that user to complete the flow. Like this, there are many flows that require the ability to capture free-flowing dialogue and extract structured information from it. To solve for this, we at Navana have built speech recognition and NLP for Indian languages. And in this way, a user can send a voice note or type out what they want, and we will make sense of it. And they can modify their query, and our technology will maintain this user state, just like a shopkeeper would while having a face-to-face conversation.
Jay, this is interesting. I've heard you speak about how language changes over distances as small as 50 to 100 kilometers. And so obviously it has got to be very challenging to build in Indian languages. So Jay, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about the challenges related to Indian languages for the Bharat user?
Absolutely, Sanjay. I think there is a lack of accessible data for us to be able to build our speech recognition on top of. This is something that we noticed very early on in our journey. And as we were building out this speech recognition, we decided that we needed to go out and collect that data for ourselves. So let's talk about why that data currently that is accessible in the open source market is not good enough for building representative speech recognition. And it's primarily around the fact that, one, there's not enough dialect representation in those data sets. So any data that's out there has been collected in a very concentrated fashion, does not capture dialectal differences. The second is that the data that is captured will not be code mixed in nature. So if you see how people will traditionally speak when it comes to Indian languages, they'll mix English keywords where necessary. So if you need to be able to build speech recognition that's going to be used in production, you need to capture that method of speaking as opposed to more Shuddh Hindi is one way to say it. And so we've spent the last 2 years going out, creating data collection pipelines by which we can find users who will provide us this audio data, on top of which we can build our speech recognition. We also will go out to domain experts and find how people will converse with specific institutions. A domain expert in this case could be someone who works at a bank branch, for instance. And we'll actually understand how users are coming up to them to request for specific functionality. And on the basis of that, we create our text data set on top of which our audio data set is collected. So one is obviously just great access to data. The second is primarily how you build your models. You must have heard a lot around domain-specific speech recognition, where instead of building speech recognition that will understand everything under the sun, you instead scope it for a particular domain and build out the speech recognition just to match that specific domain. That's what we're doing at Nirvana Tech. We scope down our sample space into just e-commerce, and then we'll customize our models to work specifically down to a customer level. And that's the way we are managing to reach upwards of 90% accuracy when we deploy our WhatsApp bots.
Very fascinating, Jay. I've watched your journey now for some time, and it's very exciting to see how you have grown into this and how you're now able to actually build these really engaging user experiences with Bharat users in their languages. So I'm sure our audience will learn from this quite a bit. Thank you for that, Jay.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. Appreciate you having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on here. Thanks, Jay. Thank you for tuning in. This has been another episode of Build for Bharat, where we feature bite-sized discussions with the architects who are building India's inclusive digital future. Build for Bharat is a part of the Bharat Inclusion Initiative, where we support entrepreneurs who are building for Bharat with inclusive products. We are on the web, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Do write to us with your suggestions and requests to feature a guest or a topic. Build for Bharat is available on all major podcast platforms: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast fix from. We will be back again with more insights soon. Subscribe now to never miss an episode.